Welcome to where we watch a witch with magic lay waste to watching cameras, a weak woman, and. Wait, what? Wow, that's one way to welcome watchers. The witch has ways of duplicating weapons and whirling them way across the wide widths of the hallway? Welcome to episode 3 of Mr. This Guy's analysis of murder drones. And wow, what a way to open this webisode. Sorry, I seemingly struggled to stop my alliteration since it started. I'm going to do this video a bit differently and talk about each character's journey through the episode instead of doing the whole thing in mostly chronological order like I've done before, just because it switches perspectives a lot in this one and I want to keep some thoughts straight. Obviously, some time has passed since the last episode, and Uzi's pretty much going insane over what happened with everything she learned and the fact that she can't find any answers for it. But instead, she just has to go back to her old life like nothing she did mattered. So, naturally, when she sees all these disappearances, and then the symbol that appears on the camera, she is ecstatic to get back to investigating. But her dad has taken it all and put it in a closet labeled Nori's Kooky Insane Stuff, where there are stacks of similar papers. While it isn't explicitly stated who Nori is, this isn't Nori, and this definitely isn't Nori, leaving only one person for this to be. Uzi's mom wasn't just Khan's wife. She had similar writings to Uzi, and enough of them to have a dedicated closet. She might have been trying to figure this stuff out too before she was killed. Something Khan obviously wasn't interested in investigating after the traumatic event. So, just like everything else, he put it behind a door. Also, I find it hilarious that on the left side of his room he has blueprints for a wooden door, and he, the doorman, is the only one with one of these wooden doors. And we finally see Khan trying to be a good father by doing his research on what to do with an insane daughter unit, keeping her away from bad influences, and finding her some people to go to prom with. To a degree, at least he's trying, but it's still not what she actually wants. And Uzi is beginning to finally spend enough time with Khan to realize he really isn't there to support her. He's there to try to keep her in line. So Uzi wants to go see N now, but her dad has grounded her, and now she's not able to. She has to deal with these two and Doll's spookily large and dark room. Already thrown off by Doll's creepiness, Uzi's eye then breaks another mirror and she hears a bit of a frightening conspiracy.
No one will notice she's missing. Just do your thing, and I'll let it be. We'll see you there.
What the
She's already pretty on edge, and then she notices the bloody bathtub. How she didn't notice this sooner, I have no idea, but we are hit with the same realization as in the second episode. There is destruction of organic matter here, like from Jay's ribcage. I really didn't even know what to think when I first saw this, but we find out that it's full of broken mirrors. Now, broken mirrors in the bathroom of someone who also has the special eye, that's an easy connection to Doll having a similar experience to Uzi and dealing with it for a long time. But the blood comes from strange red material, much like the organic material of the Absolute Solver. Though we knew the symbol and the Absolute Solver were connected before, this is the first tangible representation of that. What's curious about this is that the broken mirrors have been discarded, an accidental occurrence brought about by the symbol in their eye. By being put with the mirrors, it could very well mean that the growth of the organic matter is just as much an accident as the broken mirrors themselves. Also, this may just be the greatest language joke I've ever seen.
Как они по-русски любят говорить. Ой, я должна была предположить, что кто-то сможет убежать через вентиляцию, используя выброшенное зеркало как ступеньки.
I mean, the way it just kept coming up and stacking on to how many words were appearing, and then the way she just stands there at the end, as if that was a genuine thing. So, after far more frightening situations than anyone could ever want right before prom, she finally reunites with N. So, let's talk about what he's been doing all this time.
I do want to be dapper. But no! That's why you had me find these?
Saying he realized just then what she wanted them for means N not only did what his prisoner said, but he dragged back a couple of human corpses without knowing why he was even doing it. This really goes to show how much V is trying to manipulate N, and we can see that violent mask slip off when the usual doesn't work with him.
Promise me you and that purple thing will stop prying into that stuff.
N isn't willing to just go along with whatever she says after all that he's seen and the care he has for Uzi. But V is free. If she wanted to leave, she could just do it. Instead, we can see her falling into old habits.
I wasn't looking. If you free me now, I promise we'll only kill what we need to survive. Just you and me, Anne.
Before she leaves, V is trying to get N to choose her. And we can see the artistic reflections on the lock and then the key. Even though the audience knows that lock and key means nothing in reality.
V, if you're hiding something, we can figure it out together.
But N is still focused on the problem, and it's not for the sake of V. So she gives up, saying,
What's best for you? Even if you hate me for it.
This line really establishes her character's personality. She cares about N, but in the end, she doesn't care what anyone thinks of her. Even him. She's going to do her job. But wait, if she doesn't care what people think of her, if she's purely focused on doing her job, why would she have offered to only kill what they need to survive earlier? And why would she decide to soak in the applause rather than just starting the slaughter? Even at the end, Uzi is within killing range, and V just casually goes along with whatever she's doing. She still acts simultaneously mean and careless, but the job is clearly not her motivation. When she says,
It's not vain. It's extra sinister.
she's pretty much admitting to the audience that she is in fact vain. So she cares about N and is likely discovering in this moment that she actually quite likes being liked. Just because she's never had that opportunity before. I'm going to wait a bit longer to give a full breakdown of V, just because she might be the most complicated character in this series, and we'll see more of her in later episodes. For now, suffice it to say that she doesn't really seem to know what she wants either. However, V was only in the bunker for a short time in the first episode and has been, supposedly, chained up ever since. How did she get to the bunker to befriend Lizzy and set up this whole manipulation? Well, we do know that she sent N on a mission to fetch some nicely dressed corpses. That might have taken enough time for V to come over and figure out this friendship, but I also think it's plenty likely that she could have tricked N into doing just about anything during the time that passed between episodes 2 and 3. During which she would have plenty of time to sneak out and set up this friendship with Lizzy, along with learning of the upcoming prom.
Ah! Oh no, no, no! No, no time!
You know what's interesting about this? When V left, she wasn't wearing her dress. But she was wearing it when she appears later. This can only mean that after she left, she had a very similar moment to N, where she came back to put on the Dapper. This ship has strong foundations. And that ship might have continued if it weren't so obvious these two were perfect for each other. Uzi has fought past grounding and bloodied mirrors to get back to N after hating her life for however many days took place between this episode and the previous. Meanwhile, N has been stuck with the worst possible roommate, V, for that same amount of time. And we all know she probably never shut up about killing Uzi and everyone else in the colony. But N just had to sit there with her because he couldn't let her go and he couldn't go back to Uzi either. Plus, this scene is just written perfectly because N still thinks, like he was taught by Jay, that he's not wanted, and Uzi gets fearful when he's thinking about leaving again. It's all so in line with their characters, and it reestablishes this profound link immediately.
I'm not dealing with anything well, but I'm done dealing with everything alone.
And not dealing with anything well is one way to put it. You could also just say that you're bad at using your hands. Firstly, that is not how you catch. Secondly, You're never gonna learn to use your hands if you never try. I mean, seriously, was touching the knife with your foot here even necessary? So clearly Doll is extremely powerful with this witch magic of hers, but we also see that this was all a ploy to get V here for revenge, V being the one who killed Doll's parents. However, when this happened, I have no idea, but we learn a lot of very interesting things about the powers here. Doll can't use her abilities directly on Uzi, someone else who has the special eye, or the absolute solver. What isn't stated directly is that Doll never uses her powers on murder drones either. If she could just pop V like any other worker drone, there would be no reason to get her into a trap like this. By this parallel of ineffectiveness, the witch powers must not work on anything with the absolute solver, whether it be a drone with the eye or a murder drone. This would also explain why Doll's parents and Uzi's mom could be killed. They might not have realized their powers couldn't protect them from disassembly drones until it was too late. However, I think Doll is giving V this memory. Even if the solver can't affect them physically, the way the screen turns red, just like N's memory was tinted yellow, the way V winces away from it, and the fact that it shows us Doll, which V obviously didn't see at the time, convinces me that this too is a power of the solver, not just V remembering the incident. If the solver can give memories, there's a good chance it would be able to take them too, and we happen to know at least one drone with missing memories.
Jay was getting orders from someone. If not the company through that relay, then, who? And how?
That's a great question, N. Sure, humans could probably mess with a drone's mind too, but what purpose would humans have for just burying a memory and altering a worker drone into a killing machine? Couldn't they just build a new drone with a much more fitting personality for murder? Perhaps these murder drones weren't made by humans at all, but rather a drone with powers like Doll's. A likeness we know extends to Uzi, even without Doll's visor calling her a like object, recognizing the absolute solver in her. But let's talk about Doll for a little bit. We know she's traumatized and wants revenge against V for killing her parents. That's completely understandable. What's weird is that she accomplishes this without a care in the world for the lives of her fellow worker drones. In fact, the most care she ever shows is when she throws Lizzy, the girl she manipulated, instead of just killing her like she does so many others. At least with the murder of potential prom queens, she was setting up her trap. But here, there is just no purpose to be killing all of these people. One might have thought after how badly the death of her parents affected her, she would gain an appreciation for life, even if she still wanted to kill the person responsible. Instead, she takes her time slowly walking up to V as she blows up her classmates with barely a thought. So why would she do that? Stick with me here, but my theory is that she's insane, but importantly, she's mad with power. A common misconception is that insanity drives people to do things that don't make sense. But this isn't true. Insanity is just a blanket term for mental states that think much differently from normal. Essentially, I believe Doll has developed a kind of god complex, believing herself above her peers to such a degree that their lives are meaningless to her. And thanks to her power, that's an easy thing to think. Her whole life, Doll has lived around worker drones who cower and hide. They are pathetically weak compared to the power she holds. But with power comes the desire for more power. Sorry, Uncle Ben, but responsibility is just not what most people are thinking of when they find themselves more powerful than those around them. If you have a business, you start trying to rise above the businesses around you. If you had the power to control metals, you would find yourself wishing you could control more. When you make a YouTube channel, you compare every video to the last, hoping you're always getting better. If you don't have a business, you don't have to compare your progress to other small businesses everywhere you go. If you don't have superpowers, there's nothing to wish was better. If you don't have a YouTube channel, then you don't have to spend every moment criticizing yourself and comparing your work to the success of other people on the same platform. This is the truth of power. It can destabilize someone normally, but Doll also watched her parents be killed and there was nothing she could do about it. She absolutely wants to control every part of her life, to be better than everyone else, to be stronger than those who had hurt her, and especially in a place like the bunker where there is no actual goal other than staying alive, that is an all-consuming passion. But there is one person she doesn't see herself as high above.
Узи, тебя вправду взял сторону дронов-убийц? И они единственные, кто потеряла из-за них семью.
Uzi had a similar experience to Doll, and similarly wasn't willing to just sit around and wait to die like the other worker drones. Uzi is respectable in Doll's eyes for her accomplishments and dedication to doing more than just sitting around. Maybe they would have even been friends under different circumstances, but Doll saying, "But I don't need help," shows what sets her apart from Uzi. If Doll wants to prove to herself that she can control every part of her life, whether it be through manipulation, murder, or vengeance, she can't accept help in doing so. Despite how many similarities they have, Uzi, just moments before, admitted that she wants and needs help.
I'm not dealing with anything well, but I'm done dealing with everything alone.
Doll refuses to do the same. I also think it's fair to call her insane because that's what the story declares she is. She commits not just casual, but torturous murder, seeming to enjoy enforcing her control in such a violent way. Uzi didn't even need to die. She wasn't popular enough to be in line for prom queen, but Doll wouldn't even let her leave. Instead, she had to be all creepy about it like this is the Silence of the Lambs. Plus, keeping the corpses of your parents around isn't exactly normal. There are certainly plenty of visual flags that the creators wanted her to look insane. Though we don't know it at the time, saying, "I put a sheet up, they're sleeping," is a pretty insane thing to say about what we later learn are her parents' corpses. There are also these things that seem like such small, insignificant moments. But we see Doll crush the bug without hesitation, showing her disregard for life, while Uzi stops herself and lets it go, an experience she shares with N. Additionally, Doll draws yet another parallel to Uzi because she doesn't have any friends. Doll only hangs out with Lizzy to manipulate her, and part of that may be Doll's whole having friends would mean she's not putting herself high enough above them thing. But that's another reason Doll just doesn't look as redeemable as Uzi does. With how much Doll has going against her already, there isn't a doubt in my mind that Doll talks to her parents' corpses at dinner time while she drinks the oil of her classmates. This comes back to the horror themes I mentioned in the previous episode. Whereas episode 2 was a haunting, episode 3 is urban fantasy horror. This genre is all about monsters hiding in plain sight among society, usually with powers that remain unseen to the world, just like Doll's witch powers. Even witches themselves are somewhat of a trademark for urban fantasies. What is also common is to have a lair that looks pretty suspicious and is clearly different from the outside world, just like Doll's room is covered in oil and robotic insects that drink it up. It's the equivalent of seeing bloodstains and hearing the buzzing of mating flies. Forces of urban fantasy tend to be manipulative, just like she is with Lizzy, lure victims into their element, like she does with Uzi, and kill without remorse, just like she does constantly. Urban fantasy also tends to have more reason than just the enjoyment of killing. There's commonly something that whatever the monstrous humanoid needs, that they get from their victims. In Doll's case, it's simple cannibalism for the
Warm, sweet oil?
just like murder drones. Regardless, Doll ends up dead to V's bullet, and N reveals to Uzi shortly after that V is intentionally hiding things before they go to Doll's room to investigate. There is a lot of genius in the small details of this scene. Firstly, Doll primarily uses kitchen knives to fight, and I was wondering where she got them. But we also see V eating one of the many parts, reminding us of the nature of murder drones right before Uzi wonders to herself if Doll was eating them, drawing the connection between the two over the topic of eating, all within a kitchen. Then we get another parallel. The first one that doesn't seem positive for our society of Earth Girl. That oil starts looking real appetizing to Uzi, just like it has just been implied it does for Doll. And she is unable to resist the temptation, an important distinction that foreshadows for the next episode. We also learn Doll's mom's name was Yeva, making it likely that this was the parent with the powers just because we'd probably get some more about the dad if it had been him instead. In a quick moment, we also get a line from In.
You kinda suck.
This is a lot like what he said to Jay in the first episode, but this time Uzi didn't have to prompt him to do so. Just a bit of character progress from the 14th letter of the alphabet. But wait, what's this? The most epic character revival of all time?
Как раз к ужину.
This means that someone with the eye can repair themselves, just like the murder drones, another unsettling parallel. And, to absolutely nobody's surprise because of how many similarities Uzi has had to Doll, Uzi is capable of the same kind of power. It's just like when she unconsciously deflected the bullet in the first episode. However, if Doll could repair herself because of the Absolute Solver, why couldn't Yeva? Maybe she could run out of repair materials like Jay did, but if they fix themselves in the same way as murder drones, shouldn't Yeva have a core running around somewhere trying to turn into a giant snake crab? Shouldn't the same be true of Nori? All in all, these questions can't be answered yet, but nonetheless are worth noting. Now, after I thought about this, I was a little confused by it. Doll had done everything up to this point to kill V. V had even shot her in the head, even if it didn't actually kill her. And yet, Doll spends her surprise attack on Uzi. I know it's becoming a bit of a common theme for me to ask in this episode, but why would she do that? The reason comes back to that power complex I mentioned earlier. Doll's goal is to be the absolute power and control as much of her life as possible. She had V locked down, and there wasn't a thing the murder drone could do about it. Doll had control. But then, Doll fights Uzi. Firstly, Uzi does something even a worker drone could do in catching the knife in her hand. But then, Doll finds herself unable to just crush her like she had other worker drones. And Uzi also deflects the next knife that Doll throws. We can see the fear appear in Doll's eyes when she realizes this. Doll has lost control. And Uzi is the culprit. From there, fighting Uzi is all out. Doll doesn't even try to get around to V, and seemingly even forgets about her in her effort to kill Uzi. But Uzi survives, and even wins against her. It doesn't matter to Doll that V put the bullet hole in her head. It was Uzi that made her feel powerless in a place where she had previously been a god. And it was Uzi she needed to remove to regain control.
Мне тебя жаль. Если я найду то, что ищу, то и тебе помогу.
What?
That was a little weak, Uzi. I think you meant... What? Now Doll turns right around and apologizes to Uzi just because they have the same power, even promising to help with a hint that she's looking for something.
I hate it here!
As they say in the biz, the plot thickens. This scene also shows a close-up of a band around Uzi's neck that says number 2. Doll has a similar band around her wrist that says 48. The same number as her mother's card, implying these bands came from their parents. These kinds of things don't appear on any other characters, meaning it's very possible that the two solver-wielding moms came from the same place.
Oh, that's where I left my excuse to be outside right now.
And with another joke to storytelling shortcuts, the plot only gets thicker. Those 3 ships from episode 1 have finally arrived. And I can't tell you how fascinated I was on my first watch just to see a ship that didn't crash land. Hey, that's a funny looking... That's totally a human right there. Can't wait to see more of that in the next episode. It's a joke because she doesn't appear for another 2 episodes. Laugh.
Hi, Tessa. Oh no. Another one?
I couldn't have put it better myself, Jay. I'm not sure anyone's going to be happy to see you either. We're all V fans here. Though, of course, I'm a Tessa fan now. I mean, just look at that sextuple backflip into decapitation. Also, the glint on her sword passing to her badge, plus that killer fit, she is already the coolest one here. Additionally, there is this suspiciously well-hidden suitcase that I honestly didn't notice until making this video. It is never shown clearly, only in this reflection and as she walks into the mist. I don't know when the suitcase got there. There's an open one on the ground, but not one near the drone where she's going to be. She obviously doesn't bring it out with her. It should be right behind the camera in this shot. There's something in the way of seeing it in this shot. It never shows us the reflection in her helmet before that point. Jay doesn't bring it out. And yet, it's there! It never shows up in later episodes, and yet there is nothing more elusive than this pink suitcase right here. Tell me if you have any theories, because I'm kind of going crazy over the amount of effort they seem to have gone through to hide this suitcase. And it never shows up again. But to move on from that, in the last episode I mentioned how I thought eye color was hereditary based on gender. Sons getting their dads and daughters getting their moms. And Lizzy is a big part of my reasoning.
Or I'll get my dad to dock your frickin' grades!
Lizzy's dad is the teacher, but they don't have the same eye color. Additionally, we see that Doll's mom had the same red eye color, but also that she was the one with the solver. With two of two instances of it happening, this makes me wonder if the solver, which appears in the eyes, would also be hereditary by gender. That's all I have to say on episode 3 for now. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you've watched to the end of any of my previous videos, you already know how validation boosted I am. Make sure to let me know if you're liking these videos, or even if you aren't. I'd love some constructive criticism, and I'm interested to hear if you like me going through each character instead of purely chronologically. Until we meet again, this is Mr. This Guy, signing off. Wow, you stuck around for that whole thing, huh?